That doesn't mean she changed herself in her character. It means she's now submitted to the monster.
Let me stop you. It's always so complex when you get on because it's so well documented. There's a lot between the lines. You had a Freudian slip almost twice and kept saying Obama assassinated. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to raise that later but didn't know if I should because I was rereading what the big Jewish Atlanta newspaper editor said. He said, I've met with the Mossad people. You know, they are looking at killing Obama. I'm serious about this, that they better attack Iran. That was pretty much an open threat. And that's the word I'm getting is that they could use an assassination of Obama as some type of false flag to launch a wider war and blame it on the Iranians.
Well, this is all part of the pattern. But I look at this thing from the end game. What's the end game here? Not what are the details of things that come up on the side. What we're headed with is something very soon. It's coming out of London, but the United States plays a key role in it. The United States has the greatest thermonuclear power for weaponry on this planet. A lot of it is concentrated in the Pacific Ocean, in our submarines. We can virtually obliterate much of this planet with one shot, that is one barrage, properly aimed. Now, that's the threat that we're facing. The timing of that threat comes before the next election inside the United States. If this was intended earlier, but it was postponed, we had people in our Joint Chiefs of Staff who said, you can't do this. You have other people saying, you cannot even think about this, because if you're thinking about a war with the parties that you're indicating, which include the British Empire and the United States under Obama working for the British Empire on this policy, you realize that you have the greatest threat to humanity imaginable. Now, whether the British do it or not, by controlling Obama, who controls the submarine fleet, ultimately as commander-in-chief of the U.S. forces, whether they do that or not is uncertain. My view is the British have two intentions. Obama's doing what he's doing. He's not really very intelligent. He's a sick man. But he's doing it for this British monarchy, who have a whole policy of reducing the human population from 7 billion people to 1 billion people in a very rapid order. And that's where the evil is coming from. Now, the British, of course, are now, in their policy, are threatening to compel U.S. forces to be used to obliterate the targeted nations they intend to obliterate. And we have in our naval capability, the submarine capability, a typification of what our capability is to do that. Without us, without the United States and its forces being complicit with the British couldn't do it, even though they're the inspiration of the policy. So our situation is we've had our military and other people in other parts of the world recognize what this problem is and know we've got to stop the British attack. We know the only efficient way to stop this, and it could stop it, is to get Obama out of office. Now, he's not only impeachable because he's violated most of our Constitution. He could take a check, but the key thing here is that he is clinically insane. This man, I did back in April of 2009.
Mr. LaRouche, I apologize for interrupting you. Let's come right back on the other side and continue looking at this, because he's not mincing words here, and he's not hyping it. So many mainline analysts say this could lead to World War III. The Russians are sending Spetsnaz, and the Iranians are sending special forces into Syria. Hello, I'm Alex Jones. Myself, my family. All right, Lyndon LaRouche is our guest. We'll give you his websites here in a moment. They're very important to visit. A lot of great information. This is a short little 5-6 minute segment, long segment coming up. We'll get to some of your calls then. But we had a lady who was on hold that I talked to before you came on with us, sir, and she was saying, well, what's the crisis? What should I prepare for? What could happen? You were getting into Obama being an insane puppet, and I want you to finish with that. But, I mean, what are the different scenarios that we could see unfold, the build-up to war with Iran, the Iranian and Russian troops going into Syria, Hillary beating the drums for war, Obama? This whole thing is escalating. And then we hear people saying, well, Obama is not wanting enough war. He's liberal. That sounds like a bunch of left cover garbage. I mean, he's doing everything the big corporations want him to do.
Of course. But I think I should be very careful now, because even while the facts I will state are all true, I've got to think about your listeners, for example, that I don't absolutely terrorize them. I tell them exactly what the situation is. First of all, the British are running this operation, the British Empire. The British Empire is not a kingdom. It's an international financial power, which includes Wall Street, for example, in our own country. And that's the power you're up against. They want to maintain the imperial tradition of Rome, which is what the British Empire's tradition is, adopted later. Now, therefore, you have to understand the way the British think. And very few Americans understand how the British think. They hear how they talk. They don't understand what's behind that talk, at least on the high level. There are two options we face right now. Apart from the obvious option we desire, is Obama should be thrown out of office now before he gets anywhere near an election. He can be thrown out for a number of reasons, for violations of the Constitution, and he can also be thrown out as an insane person, for which he's qualified. This man is actually a man of that type. Under the Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, this man is qualified to be suspended from the office of the president. All that would be required is the Vice President of the United States would utter such a finding, present it to members of the cabinet, and if they agreed, then the president would have to step back while the matter was being challenged. That would be the best solution. Or if he simply would resign for some reason.
All right, I want to stop you briefly. Why is it so important for him, the figurehead, to be brought down, A? But B, I agree with you. I've seen a lot of stuff that shows he's more than just a narcissist. He says there's 57 states. He bizarrely does full bows to anybody who's royal. He's saying more and more weird stuff. I mean, what's your intel? So I know you have an incredible intelligence network. I mean, are you hearing he's actually completely nuts? And what is the form of psychosis?
Well, he is actually the same thing as the Emperor Nero. He has in history an identity and a profile, which I presented in April of 2009, warning about what this guy was going to do. He is actually, somebody picked a guy whose mental state was that of the same as the Emperor Nero, and who, in the end killed himself when he was losing the case at that point. But in this case, what's happening is the British are in control of this thing, and Obama's nothing but a British puppet. He's also insane. And its significance is that as President of the United States, with his insanity and the power he's using with the direction of the British, he could cause World War III. Thermonuclear World War III. So if we don't remove him from power, as it stands now, here we got two options. You have to think of what's the British option. The British option is if they can't win it any other way, they are now prepared to order through the President of the United States the launching as of our submarine fleet in the Pacific, to launch the greatest capability in thermonuclear warfare that exists on this planet. Without the United States under control of the British, under Obama's control, that could not happen. Therefore, we have to get Obama out, because the most likely way to save this nation, if we continue to tolerate Obama, if he's continued to be president, they're not going to wait for the next election of the United States. The danger comes now. We don't know the exact date, but we're approached that point. Now, two things the British have two objectives. Now, the British know what the command knows exactly what they're doing when they're prompting the United States to unleash forces such as the submarine thermonuclear capability in the Pacific and also in the Atlantic. They know what they're doing. They are obviously not anticipating a pleasant trip with that. They would prefer to use the threat, as Hitler did in Germany to the Germans, to use the threat.
Mr. LaRouche, stay there. That was a short segment. Long one coming up. This is key. That's what I wanted to ask you when we get back. Why are they openly announcing that they're moving most of the forces to diminish the Chinese? The Chinese, as you know, their president has now said, prepare for war with the United States. Incredible. When they hold most of our debt. They're going towards war on every front. I know the British model. Divide and conquer. We'll be right back.
We're on the march.
All right, I know we've got a bunch of callers holding, and they called in with questions and comments about the show. I'm going to have John Harmon We don't normally screen your calls, but I have John go through them and find out who's got questions for our guest. Who would want to ask our guest questions? I mean, this is the most important subjects. And then I'll do 5 minutes or even more of overdrive to get to everybody else. There's a bunch of news I haven't gotten to. Twitter, Facebook, Google, they're all announcing they're going to go along with governments to censor. I saw where now government's going to ask them, don't let people Twitter about police roadblocks or about police checkpoints or police speed traps. Well, what do you think a CB is? You know, breaker 19, let me know if there's any smoky on up ahead. I mean, it's good. We're allowed to talk to each other. You don't have prior constraint on us talking to each other. But going back to our guest, you can call them if you ever want to get a copy of their intelligence report that comes out on a routine basis. Great magazine, 800-929-7566 or LaRouchePack.com. There's also other websites they have as well, but LaRouchePack.com. And he joins us now. Okay, so we're going to break, and we were talking about understanding the city of London, the Venetian black nobility, vestigial remnant of the Roman Empire and Byzantine system that survived and was taken into Europe and then finally settling after, I guess, the Templars' purge in London and Scotland for that matter. But in London, in the city of London, the city within the city, one of those, again, cities on its own, sovereigns saying that they're above everyone. What is their mindset so people can understand it and what this great game is, and why do they have the U.S. military openly menacing the communist Chinese, who our own government has helped give the MIRV technology and ICBM Long March technology to? What is this great game?
Well, the game includes the elimination of the Russia, China, India, and so forth. The immediate target for weapons attack is from the United States if it's working under the British direction, which Obama represents. In that case, then the target is principally against Russia, China, the other leading nations of Asia, including India. Those are the targets. Now, the British prefer not to take the risk of the repercussions of a full-scale thermonuclear attack on that part of the world and any other places they think is a threat to them. They would prefer to have us sign a treaty agreement with the British Empire, that is with Wall Street and London, and thus submit to the dictatorship of those powers. That way the British would get everything. It would be a bit slower than winning a thermonuclear war, but they would accept that because they don't want to be killed too. They just want the people they want to kill to be killed. So therefore, we have two options. If we allow this president, Obama, to continue in the presidency, we are doomed because the full repercussion of launching of a thermonuclear war. Our military are not guilty. Our military, our Joint Chiefs of Staff and people like that, and people in the intelligence community are of the same persuasion. They are fighting like the devil and so far have helped to prevent this from happening. It was supposed to happen soon after the killing of Gaddafi. But our best military people were a key factor in preventing us, and some of our intelligence community were a key factor within the limits they have of power in this system, have delayed this thing so far. But we're now coming to the point that the British are getting desperate, and they're now pushing hard against Russia, against China, for total submission.
And, sir, I want to be clear because neocons and others write articles about myself and they say, Jones doesn't want war with the Russians and Chinese. He must work for them. I mean, my family on both sides came over on the Mayflower. On my dad's side, the captain of the Mayflower, Battle of San Jacinto, Texas founding. How dare these banker operatives, these people that are helping sell out our Bill of Rights, our Constitution. I know you come from an old American family as well. How dare these type of people claim that because we don't want nuclear